when Luke flew into a Star Destroyer. Luke was one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy, and after the destruction of the first Death Star, one of the most famous. So why did he decide to pilot his X-Wing headfirst into a massive Star Destroyer? That's today's story. The battle was tearing both sides apart, Rebels and Imperials. Cannon fire, explosions, starfighters, death. The black void of space was suddenly filled with all of it. The battle itself was incredibly hard to keep track of, with no clear winner in sight. The Imperial forces were protected by the heavy fortifications of their cruisers, but still they were sitting ducks. After a crucial bullseye hit, Han, aboard the Millennium Falcon, ripped open a hole in the massive flagship Star Destroyer. Wasting no time, Red 3, the X-Wing piloted by Wedge Antilles and the elite Rebel squadron, locked on to the opening and fired 2 proton torpedoes that landed directly inside. Wedge couldn't breathe a sigh of relief yet. The torpedo's target was a tough one. He was aiming for the engine reactor deep inside the Star Destroyer. Seeing no signs of internal damage and hearing their X-Wings go down one by one, the Rebels realized the torpedoes missed. More X-Wings tried to make the shot. As the fighters approached the cruiser, most were either picked off by incoming TIE fighters or the Star Destroyer's own ion cannons, without even having the chance to fire into the ship's exposed side. Luke knew he had to put a stop to this straight away to preserve more lives. He switched off his firing computer. His allies watched, breathlessly, knowing that they would see Luke pull off the same amazing shot he made on the Death Star. But he wasn't firing. As his ship rapidly approached the opening, his allies quickly realized what he was aiming for. Luke wasn't going to fire through the tiny hole in the ship. He was going to fly right inside it. As quickly as the cannon fired around them, his X-Wing shot right into the tight gap, surrounded by debris and deceased floating stormtroopers. Perhaps misjudging the size of the gap, Skywalker's ship quickly scraped and hit against the trench on all sides. Some were minor scratches, but he also suffered some large dents, which made him a little more aware of the danger he was in. Flashes of electric blue started to shoot off around his ship as it nail-bitingly scraped across the interior of the destroyer, but Luke wasn't turning back or slowing down. As the ship's reactor appeared closer and closer, Luke launched his attack, firing everything he had into the atomic blue core. As plumes of smoke fell out of the Star Destroyer's new gap, Solo and Leia scrambled to get any signal they could from Luke, fearing the worst. On board the ship, the Imperial commanders assessed the situation. With the reactor now seemingly in overload, the only logical answer was to abandon ship, before a complete overload just minutes away. Shortly after, Imperial ships, troopers, and elites made their way out of the cruiser as fast as they could. The mass panic meant that the entire operation inside was in disarray, which worked for the Rebels perfectly. As the Empire ran away from their cruiser, Han and Leia managed to slip right through the distracted fleets of Imperial ships and make their way on the Star Destroyer, while the X-Wing squad took out the escaping enemy ships. Despite blaster fire from the not-so-lucky stormtroopers still left in the hangar, the smuggler and the princess made a relatively smooth landing onto the cruiser. The Rebels made their way to the reactor room to save Luke, dodging and defending against all enemies they could as they darted through the hole. However, not all problems were eliminated. With the reactor room engulfed in flames, an intrepid Imperial engineer attempted to fix the reactor. As he readied his tools to work through the flames, something from seemingly out of nowhere hits him on the head. It was the butt of a blaster pistol, Luke's blaster pistol. "This is Red 5, reactor is secure." They had won control of the Star Destroyer. Luke's ability and the Force were growing day by day, and at this point in his journey, we could see that more in his piloting than his lightsaber combat. During this battle, he showed off one of his greatest feats, as he deftly piloted through the narrow inner corridors of the Star Destroyer and managed to disembark inside. This was a big win for the Rebels, and they owed it mostly to Luke.